Hi everyone, welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm joined today by my good friend Lance. Lance, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Today we're going to do something a little different. I just wanted to get Lance on because I basically just wanted to shoot the shit and talk about gym talk with him. And I thought, what better person to have on than a fellow bodybuilder, powerlifter. This is the guy who knows everything about the gym. And I just thought, you know what? I want to have him on and just have a fun talk with him today. But before we start, Lance, why don't we tell everyone who you are and what you do for a living?
Well, I'm Lance. I'm mid-30s. I've been lifting since God, off and on since I originally picked up weights and started learning how to bench press when I was 13, and then I played some hockey, and so I did some lifting around that, and then I really got into it early 20s. I want to say 22.
Right.
After I stopped playing hockey, I was always chubby, but I got like fat, proper fat,
Sure.
when I was about 19, 20. Like right when I started getting out of hockey, like still was eating like a pig, drinking lots of soda and stuff like that. And now I wasn't doing anything, so it was just exasperating problem. And then I moved up to Vancouver actually when I was 20, right when I'd been out of hockey for about 6 months at that point. Get up to Vancouver and realized that I have to like walk to go get stuff. I didn't have a car, didn't want a car. I lived downtown Vancouver.
Yeah.
So I started walking to go do things. The closest fast food place to me, because I lived like over on Falls Creek in Yaletown, basically by David Lamb Park. So the closest fast food was A&W in the Pacific Center Mall.
Yeah.
So it's like a 25-minute walk or something. So even if I wanted to get, like a teen burger or something like that, I had to go for a bit of a trek to get it.
Sure.
So it was a different thing. And just living up in Vancouver, I started losing weight.
Right.
The first time, so it was good. It brought me down to a little thing. I always kind of stayed a bit chubby, but I got into lifting there. I went to England and started learning how to lift heavier.
Yeah.
There was a couple of old school guys who really liked bodybuilding in the gym I used to go to in Liverpool, and so I picked up some stuff from them, and that kind of started me on my way because I started feeling around in like Olympic lifting and things and trying heavier squats and going into trying to learn how to snatch properly and stuff like that.
Right.
And then it was like when I got into Taiwan, I met this guy who was U.S. military that lives out there with a Taiwanese wife, and he is like a proper powerlifter. And I don't mean like like me, where he's just a strong guy who like lifts powerlifting style thing. Like he deadlifts 800 pounds, bench presses around 500.
Right.
Yeah. He's like 196 pounds, and he could do a 700-pound squat.
Okay.
Like it was just incredible to watch. And you're just looking at this guy like, that was it. That was like I went down that rabbit hole, and that's just where I was.
Let's backtrack for a second. I want to go back to when you were playing hockey. You said you started doing some weightlifting. What type of weightlifting were you doing as a hockey player?
You know what the funny thing is like you don't really get a lot of direction.
Sure.
So I wasn't doing what I should have been doing. Like what I should have been doing is lots. This is sort of one of the things that plays into how I like to lift now. I should have been doing lots of squats. I should have been doing lots of deadlifts, lots of power cleans, these kind of things that are really really a lot of muscle used in big compound movements that are really going to help me like condition. So I'm using my oxygen better.
Sure.
Like that's one of the things, like, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, so I'm like doing bench press and like dumbbell curls and crap like that, just useless, completely useless for work.
Right.
And meanwhile, I think I'm doing something, and I'm kind of not.
Right. Yeah.
It was one of those, and it took me, God, I would say 10 to 15 years to really realize how silly it was.
Sure.
Like, wow, I could have so used that time better. And then what would have happened? Would I have been a faster skater? I was always playing. And, like these kind of questions start like you ask yourself as you learn more, you're like, wow, how badly did I like go sideways on that where I could have gone, this way or something. But
yeah, but in your defense too, because you and I are roughly the same age, and when you and I were coming up as teenagers, there was no social media, there was no YouTube, so we kind of just had to like find our own way and learn from the guys in the gym or pick up what I like to use, the Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. I'm sure you've read that before. So that's what we relied on, right? We didn't know any better. And now, I'm training guys who play hockey. I personally don't play hockey, but I know the type of conditioning that goes into it. that's what I'm interested to know if, you know, you had a certain plan going into the gym, but you were kind of just winging it and just like monkey see, monkey do in the gym.
Yeah, because you know it's one of those, like, even our coaches were like, you guys should lift some weights, put on some muscle, get a little bit of condition. Okay, how?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, you do your thing. And then, like, you know, we do drills and stuff for practice. We're like skating and doing skating drills and things, and that I know that all helps, but
Sure.
you know, they didn't give us any tips on diet, didn't give us anything. So, like, you know, the group of us, right? Like, we would go from the rink to the restaurant attached to the rink, and then it'd be like Wing Wednesday, and we'd eat like 47 wings.
Yeah.
You know, for 5 cents a wing or something like that.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's like 3,000 calories fried chicken. Great. You know, like,
and you know, nowadays
so it was just, you know, it's just all a little bit ridiculous.
Well,
but what you're saying is, what you're saying is totally right, though. I don't know about you, but you were saying the Arnold's Encyclopedia. I had that, but Muscle and Fitness.
Yeah.
Like, I look back at that, and I'm like, man, that was like the worst advice ever.
Terrible advice.
You know, I bought it religiously,
sure.
and I read it every month, and I got nothing from it. Literally nothing.
No.
It was one where I look back and I'm like, man, like, that's just like, do this, but they don't tell you why you're doing it.
No.
Yeah.
And the thing about those magazines, every second page was a supplement ad, right? So they weren't really giving any good advice. And the bodybuilders who were, you know, giving this advice were not even the bodybuilders giving the advice. It was just some ghostwriter. That's why I really liked, for me, I really learned a lot, though. And I think you would agree in Arnold's book, Modern Bodybuilding. I think that's Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. That's the name, right?
Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding.
Yeah. And I learned a lot in that book. I think a little bit of overtraining, though. But at the same time, I mean, it did teach the basics. So
yeah, those 2 days, I did them.
Well, now I want to. So you moved to Vancouver, and you know, then you go to Liverpool, and you go back and forth, and you learn how to properly do some actually Olympic lifting. So who teaches you that again?
Okay, so for when I was in England, I was living with a woman from Estonia that I'd met when I was in the Czech Republic, and we just hit it off right away. And pretty much there, you can throw a football hit another country. So like, she would come and visit, or I'd go and visit, or we go to adjacent countries on the weekends and stuff. Like, she could hop a bus like super quickly, go to Latvia, and I could like fly into Latvia for, you know, €30 or something like that.
Okay.
And so it was pretty easy to get around. And she eventually just moved to England and moved in with me. But the best part about that, lifting wise, the reason why I get into this backstory, is she was from a town called Tartu in Estonia. And there they have these one massive sports complex. The university does all their sports there. The local, like, professional basketball team for the like the Eastern European League, Baltic League, I think it's called, does their games there. And more importantly, the national teams would train there sometimes.
Okay.
So when I was basically there, I think this was the first time I trained with them was in the winter. So I was there for Christmas one year, and the national team had their junior Olympic lifting team in the gym, and it was always in there on the days where I wanted to go. And I wanted to do some squats, so I like literally tried to negotiate with the coach to like let me use one of the squat racks, and he was like, "We need all this space." I was like, "Okay," because they have all this beautiful like actual Olympic lifting areas that were set up specifically just for Olympic lifting. Like they had like special flooring and everything for it. And he finally like looks at me, because I've asked him like 3 or 4 times in a row, and I had to like wait first time, second day, had to wait. So he comes up to me with one of the guys who speaks English, and he looks at me and he goes, "You can work out with us, but you have to do exactly what I tell you."
Okay.
And I go, "Okay."
Yeah.
And so it's like, and so he leads me over to the thing, and he's got like the guy who speaks English, and he's like, "Okay, today you're doing snatch." And I'm like, "I don't know how to snatch." He goes, "You will after today." You know, and it was just this funny thing, because, you know, like, he saw me squatting there, you know, after they left and stuff. And so I think he just finally goes, "Okay, this guy kind of knows something." Right. He's like, he kind of wants to work out. Let's give him, let's like give him some instruction to kind of like make him a little bit better. And so he spent the day, him, the coach, and they taught me how to snatch. And then I go there the next day, and he was just like, "Today you're doing this." And I just like, "Okay." And then it's like, "Today you're doing clean and jerk." And I'm like, "I don't know how to do that." whatever, it's another thing. And I've never hurt more in my life, because it wasn't like, oh, okay, that's good, I'm done. It's like, nope, you're not done. Go do 10 more. And you're just like, oh,
Oh my God.
okay.
So you were doing all the
yeah. So for like
lifts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for 2 weeks, basically, I trained them, I think 7 or 8 times, and it was always something different, and it was always just absolute. Like I don't think I've ever slept better. It was crazy.
Really?
Like I didn't think I could do it. Yeah, it's really strange because they just tell you that you have to do more, and they don't really speak. Like the coach didn't speak English, so like the guy who's translating is like, yeah, just do more. Like how many more? Like we'll tell you to stop. I'm like,
so you pass out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
But it was like that. And then I walked back up the hill to go back to my girlfriend's place at the time, and I was just like, I'm just like, oh fuck, like I'm gonna fall over. Like,
Right.
it was pretty brutal, but that was kind of like my introduction to actually becoming strong.
Okay.
Was that, because it was after that the way I trained, the way I looked at training changed very differently, like in total.
Well, doing all those Olympic lifts and power movements, did you have any attributions? Did you want to think our aspirations, to be a not bodybuilder, but say powerlifter down the road? Did that ever occur to you? Yeah.
I did get into powerlifting. I've done some competition in Asia when I was over there, but nothing big, just like local meets and stuff. Just group guys just banging out weight and judging everybody.
Yeah.
Like no, I saw you weren't low enough kind of thing, but
sure.
It was a really good camaraderie when I did actually get into powerlifting, which I think is the big difference between powerlifting and bodybuilding.
Sure.
As they're both kind of like, they're a little bit different. Like one's the sock and one's the shoe, but they're both on the same foot. So powerlifting, everybody is, for the most part, from what my experience with it is, everybody's really supportive of everybody else, because you can either lift it or you can't. There's nothing about it that is subjective.
That's right.
Got it or you don't.
That's it.
For bodybuilding, there's that thing where like everybody's sizing everybody up, like, oh, that guy's, whatever, his traps are off, and like look at one biceps much bigger than the other one. Like you guys are looking for the flaws in each other, and there's a lot of weird things. So like there's no perfect bodybuilder. Like even going back and looking in history, I don't think there's a perfect bodybuilder. There's always a flaw somewhere.
There's always is.
Yeah, there's always something you can take away from somebody else that's worked that hard for it and has done the best they can. Like that's like you can even look back at one of probably the best physiques in history, like Frank Zane, and you can go, you know what, he just wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I can't really say no. I mean, I can say he looked amazing, but I can't say he was huge, because he wasn't. So it's one of those, like you can literally pick apart anything in bodybuilding. So it breeds this kind of little thing where there's that little competition, and you're kind of like, snipey with each other a little bit. That's my experience with it.
I agree. I've said this over and over again. Bodybuilders are a bunch of prima donnas, and I include myself in that. Yeah, we might be all friendly after the show, but during the show, no. And, if you don't get a good placing that you think you got robbed, you're like, oh, that judge is smoking crack. That judge is no good. The politics. And I'm like, oh, amateur bodybuilding, no politics. It is what it is. Did you ever have any attributions to want to be, like, aspirations to be a bodybuilder at any point?
No, I never thought it was even close to possible.
No.
Like, I never thought I would ever be, like, there's so much misinformation in society on health and on fitness. This is probably the biggest knock I have on the fitness industry, is they kind of want people feeling helpless and stupid so that they buy whatever they're trying to sell them. And,
I agree.
And I absolutely typify that for the longest time. I loved lifting. I loved being in the gym, but I genuinely didn't think it was possible to be thin, because I had been fat since I was a kid. I didn't think it was possible. Yeah. Like there was in my head, there was a 0% chance I could ever like have abs.
Okay.
Ever.
Yeah.
Like it just wasn't ever going to happen. I was a fat kid. That means I'm a fat adult, period. So like
it wasn't a realistic goal.
To me, it felt like it, because everything, like all the magazines and trainers and all this stuff, they all basically, they all, you know, and then they all kind of say that you can't do it alone,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
And like you need something to do it. Like, you know, you need to take some drugs, or you need to get some surgery, or you need to do something. And I didn't want to do any of that. So
Right. So
I was like, okay, I'm cool with being the fat kid. I'll just be the fat kid my whole life. I'm fine with that. And so I just kind of leaned into it. I never really thought it was going to be something that I'd ever do. Like, I just looked back, blamed my parents for having Oreos around all the time. It was like, there we go. Like,
yeah.
That's my destiny. It was written for me when I was 6, you know, like that kind of thing.
Well, when you look at most powerlifters, I mean, most of them don't have the best diets. A lot of the strongmen, you know, they got the big bellies. It's not an aesthetic contest, so therefore, you know, it's just kind of food is fuel, and the more you eat, the more calories you consume, the stronger you become.
And you know what? I think that's probably part of the thing that really pulled me in was, you know, you'd see big fat dudes doing incredible stuff with weight, and it's like, well, you didn't have to have fucking like abs to do that.
Right.
But when you look at like the strong men growing up, I mean,
Yeah.
who, I don't know about you, but who are the big ones that I'm thinking, like the Magnus Samuelsson, Magnus Magnuson, Yoko Aola from Finland. These guys were all shredded.
Yeah.
They were shredded. They had like abs. They were big. Like they're the ones that were the fan favorites, you know?
Right.
The big fat dude, like what, I can't remember his name. The American guy, he was this big, like 420-pound black dude from the U.S. Super strong.
Okay.
And I swear to God, I watched him almost win one year, but the last competition was running.
Right.
For strongman, and he had like an overwhelming lead, and I think he was even crying at the end because he knew he like just couldn't do it.
Right.
And I just remember I was like, I want to say I was 8, but I was watching it on ESPN2 or even ESPN2 when it first came out. No, it wasn't ESPN2. It was ASPN. That was back then. I think. Yeah, and I'm just like, no! It was one of the worst. Like, this guy was the chosen one.
Yeah.
It's like, he won all the strength events. Give him the damn trophy. Like, he's the strongest man.
Yeah. You know,
it was like a medley, and he had to run at the end of it. I was just like, oh, fuck. Look at his face. He was just like, you know, when he started trying to move and his body wasn't letting him, he was just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. You know, when you and I first met, it was funny because I remember the first time I met you, and you were actually squatting. And I looked over, and we were at this commercial gym here in Vancouver called Steve Nash, which Steve Nash Sports Club wasn't known to have like true bodybuilders or powerlifters. I look over and I see you, and I'm like, this guy, not only is he squatting with perfect form, he's squatting with heavy ass weight. I'm like, who is this guy? Like at that point, I don't see anyone. There's no, in this particular gym, there are no, you know, everyone's doing their dumbbell kickbacks and all these fancy movements, the hip abductors and, you know, induction machines, all the accessory work. So you come to Vancouver and you start training at a gym like that. Explain to me what that's like going from a powerlifting gym into like it kind of want to say like a boutique gym.
It's a weird one. So the gym I used right before that I was using in Taiwan was an open air gym.
Right.
And it was like there was a bunch of like Taiwanese bodybuilders that went there. They had all the mirrors and everything. They had a room to like oil up and everything, so they could get their like fake tan and see how their physiques were looking for competition. And then there was like a group of us that were powerlifters, and we were all there. And we're talking like, this is a gym that was made by this guy who owned a factory, and he did metal work, and so he got a contract to do some gym equipment for some company in Europe or something like that. And he was like, well, I know how to make this stuff, and so I'll just make it, throw it in gyms. So he opened up like 4 little gyms. There was no air conditioning, there was no walls.
Right.
Like the roof opened up, and it's like 35 degrees, 90% humidity. The sun's beating down on you, and like you're sitting there trying to do heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, and you're just leaving like an absolute puddle. Like I used to drink like 2 or 3 liters of water over like a 2-hour session.
Wow.
Yeah, it would just come right out. Like I had 3 or 4 towels. I had 1 towel for my hands, and that one was like sacrosanct. So that one hung over the machine, and like between sets, I'd stand like a doctor's that just scrubbed in. Yeah. You know, and I had like sweat coming off my elbows, and I just so my hands stay dry. Yeah. And then before I go into a set, I get the chalk that I have hanging from the thing, and
Yeah.
And I'm just like getting ready,
Yeah.
scrub in, boom, grab and go. It's just like,
well, you know, and that's a hardcore training environment, right?
It was the best I've ever had in my life.
Sure.
Best training, best camaraderie from the gym that I've ever had.
Right.
And then going to a place like Vancouver, which is an interesting one, where half the guys who don't look like they're on steroids are on steroids. Half the people in there are just doing barbell presses and bench presses, and they're like doing curls, and like they don't realize that they have a back or triceps or any of that.
No.
And I remember the first time I did rack pulls there, and like management was all standing watching me like, should we stop this?
Yeah.
Like, is he supposed to do this here?
They've never seen that.
I think I was rowing like, I was rowing like 600 pounds, I want to say 700 pounds, something like that. And it's just making this big clang every time I put it back down. And they're just looking at me there was the tall trainer, Ian, he was pretty cool about it. He was good. There was a trainer that was a power lifter, but he seemed like he, I don't know, definitely didn't like me. Because he came up to me the first time I met him. And he goes, well, I hear you want to get into powerlifting. I go, no, I'm in it. I've done competition and stuff like that. He's like, all right, well, let's see what you got. And I think in my warm-up sets when I was going over 400 on the squat, he was just like, yeah, I don't need to be here. And he just like walked away. I was like, okay.
It's funny that you mentioned Ian, because that's Ian McWalter, and I had him on the channel about 2 weeks ago. He's actually a good friend of mine, and he's a great trainer, and he does have a powerlifting background. So, it's rare though in gyms like that. I don't just want to say Vancouver, because we do have some hardcore gyms in Vancouver, but that particular gym where you and I met was definitely not hardcore. Do you find it difficult when you go to a gym like that to get motivated? I mean, when you see things around you.
I've always self-motivated, man.
Right.
For me, the motivation is it's on the ground or in the rack right in front of me. I'm there to make sure I can move that weight. I'm not going to let the iron beat me, and that's just the way it is. Yeah. I'll do what I got to do to get that rep that way. Like for me, as soon as I load that bar, I'm motivated. Like that. It's really weird. I can say this, and I'm assuming you're the same way, because I know how much time you spend in the gym and how the gym's kind of been a part of your life for so long. But everything like about work ethic, about determination, about grit, about all of this, I learned it in the gym. It's weird to say that, but I feel like there was something not like after going to the gym and doing the training and lifting the way that I have been for so many years and everything, and learning every time. And every couple of years I learned that I probably didn't know what the damn hell I was doing 2 years ago. And I get to a point where I'm like, I would always have this weird eureka moment, like every 2 or 3 years, where it would invalidate almost everything I did for the last 2 or 3 years. And it was just like, well, shit, like, why didn't I think of that then? I'll talk to some of the guys in my gym here in Montreal, and I blow their minds. Like, they're still like, how do you do? And I'm like, well, what are you trying to get out of it? What? like I see you're lifting, but what do you want from the lift? Well, I want to blah, 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 blah. But how is what you're doing getting you from point A to point B? Huh?
Yeah.
It like they just don't like it's weird. Like they don't get that it's a journey, You write your journey in the iron, man. Like, and you gotta
put in your time. And I think what happens now, we're in that instant gratification society where everyone wants it now. So they're like, well, how do I start lifting? And in your case, how do I start, bench pressing 500 pounds? Well, you don't just walk into the gym and do it 2 weeks later. It takes years to build up to that. Same thing with bodybuilding. You're a powerlifter. I'm a bodybuilder. We train differently, but at the same time, we train the same, because we both at the end of the day, I know you go to the gym like 4, 5, 6 times a week. I'm the same way. It's very therapeutic. Now, again, our styles of training are different, but that's one thing I wanted to get in with you, because I'm not a powerlifter. So, for example, when I squat once a week. But I know for you, you're doing squats. Like, how many times a week do you squat?
I do three sessions with squats a week.
And then
And I do them at varied weights. So I'll, the beginning of the week, I start off my week with my heaviest squat session, my most intense one,
right.
and then I end the week with with deadlifts, with my most intense deadlifts.
Yeah.
And then I get about 2 to 3 days, depending on how things are, off of the gym, and then I get back into the squats again. So in the middle of the week, I'll have some light squats. It's usually something like pin squats, or I'll do tempo squats, which are grinders. I like to do tempo squats on the lightest weights, just because I mean, I'm just hammered by the end of my deadlift workout.
Sure.
So when I'm finish up my deadlifts, I'll go and I'll do some. I do kind of almost like an incline press as my shoulder press, just because I get a little bit of impingement in my shoulder. But I go into that and I use dumbbells now, just because I just get a little bit of pain in my shoulders and stuff after all these years of barbell training.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I know I'm done, like my body's practically empty. And then I'm like, and now it's time for tempo squats. And you can just see like my face when I start like the last set where I'm doing my incline presses, and it's just like, I'm just seeing it in the mirror, and I'm just like, no, I'm talking myself out of it. I'm like, you know what? I've had a really good week. Like, I don't really need to do this. And it's just like this struggle. It's like, nope, get your ass over to the rack. You got one more squats. You can do one set of it. You know, you got to work up to a decent weight, and then you got to do 8. Like, let's see. And it's just like the pain is just real.
Well, what's your typical rep range that you would stick to for most sets?
It depends on the weights, really.
Okay.
So something like my for deadlifts and squats, I kind of will limit it to 5 max.
Okay.
On heavy stuff. I don't want to do more than that. But I'm finding that I like 3 the best.
Okay.
The 3 for me is like that's where I can hit the biggest weight but still hit more. So like say I'm in a spot where I'm only gonna get if I did a single, I'd get like maybe, I don't know, 425 or something like that on a squat. That means I can probably do 3 at like 390. Okay. You know, like it'll be a grunter, but you know, and the cool thing about powerlifting versus bodybuilding is I can take one out, step back, hit the rep, re-rack it, take as much time as I need till I feel like I'm ready to go again, and then go again. But that's still one set. Like for me, it's about hitting the reps. It's not about getting 30 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever. Yeah. It's all about getting that rep. So I can be on one set of deadlifts, my last set, and I can just be psyching myself out and be there for 25, 30 minutes. Yeah. Because like the second one hurt. Like and I don't know if I've got it, but I know I can do it because it's just fitting into that, like, I hit the first 2, which means I can hit the third. Why? Because if I hit 2, I always am able to hit that third. Yeah. If I struggled and nearly dropped the second one, sure, I don't have the third one. And I can literally call it a day, and I just know it's over. But when I know it's there, but I don't want to do it, like it's just one of those, it's like, oh.
What type of mental preparation goes into doing a heavy set like that? I mean, myself personally, I mentioned this on our Q&A last night, is that I don't squat more than 315. I've stuck at that weight for 10 years. I probably could lift more. I don't know if it's a mental barrier, but I feel, you know what? My legs are developed enough. I don't need to go anymore. But, you're squatting way more weight than that. I mean, what's the mental preparation to get ready for a set like that, going under a bar like that?
Basically, I say this to myself. I just go, you're getting under this bar. If you don't, if you fuck around, it's going to crush you.
Right. Sure.
So, like, I mean, that's really, it becomes very much a game time, because it's not like dropping a set when you're doing like, some dumbbell bench and you're just like, oh, I just let it go to the side. Yeah. It's, if I drop a squat, it's grinding off my back. It's slamming into the rack. It might come back and hit me. Like, I get bruises and scrapes down my back when I lose a weight. And it can be bad. Like, what happens if my brain's just going a little bit sideways and I still keep holding on to the bar? Maybe I'll rip my freaking shoulder. I don't know. Like, it can go really wrong. And it's funny because, like, when I do like overload training, if I do something like reverse band squats, I'll put on, like, God, as much as I can move. Like, I'll just keep loading weight until it's a struggle to stand under it, right? And the bands will help me move it. But when I re-rack it, I mean, I got to sit down. Like my head's completely gone.
Sure.
And I'm there for like maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, just like trying to understand what's going on, you know, because I'm just like,
I would imagine your central nervous system is in shock after something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the whole point of it. That's really the whole point. Just so I don't panic when I get under a weight that I can actually move. Because a lot of the time, it's not the musculature, it's your mental. When it comes to those really heavy lifts, it's like, if you talk yourself out of it, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
Like you've got to, like, I'll know I can hit something and still miss it because I was dragging my feet, or I'm thinking about how heavy it was the last time I did it.
Right.
Like, that's bad.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I'm talking about it'll take me 20, 30 minutes to get that last rep. It's because like my body doesn't want to do it. My mind doesn't want to do it. I know my body can do it.
Yeah.
If you can lift it once, you can lift it twice.
Sure.
I know I can do it.
Right.
It's just getting my head right is the hardest part sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's easy, like when everything's aligned and then when my body doesn't cooperate, that's when I get really frustrated. That's the really tough part. Just like, you know, like my back and my legs, I understand how that works, but sometimes with my chest, if I'm doing chest training, there's a good chance that like the axioms that I have for back and legs, like if I can squat it once, I can squat it again. I just need enough time in between. Because those muscles are a lot more resilient and your body is a lot more able to handle that because there's a lot of different muscle at play. Whereas something like a bench press is not that much there. And you know, it's a silly movement, right? But it's just like, it's one of those ones you have to train. It's just, it's part of the whole powerlifting kind of thing. And so like, that's a weird one. So I can crush something once and then I don't have a chance getting it again. And so bench is very frustrating for me because I can't approach it the same way. And I've never felt really comfortable because of that, because I never know, even now, years and years and years of training, I think my bench is really not good. It never has been great. I've got too long of arms and it's just awkward. And the benches are always really narrow. Yeah. So they push my shoulder blades out. So it's hard to get my shoulder blades behind me.
Keep them behind me
underweight. It's a real struggle. And then there's like little things like in the powerlifting style bench where we have to have our knees basically below our hips. Me being 6'5", it's incredibly difficult to get my knees below my hips. Yeah. So like that becomes another problem. So if my feet are a little bit out of whack, or the bench itself, if it's just too short, nothing I can do. Like
that's actually one thing I wanted to mention is with your height. You are a tall guy. You're 6'5". And I've seen you squat, and usually squatting is not a tall man's exercise. It's usually designed for the shorter guys maybe my height. I'm around that 5'9" mark. You know, guys who are even shorter than me, they squat really with good form. Now, I've seen you squat, and you've got great form. But have you ever had any serious injuries of all this heavy poundage that you're lifting over the years?
No.
None?
Never one, no.
What do you attribute that to? Just proper warm-up, or what is it? No ego lifting?
Well, that's part of it. I'm never trying to show off because I frankly, like when I'm in the gym, it's really funny. Like you'll see me staring off into nothing. And that's basically because nothing else is really there. Like I don't really see a lot of stuff.
Sure.
Like it
tunnel vision. I get it.
Yeah. It's just like, it kind of almost goes blank. And it's funny because I know, like, it makes me seem a little bit weird when I'm in there, especially in like commercial gym where like nobody else, because I'm usually either recovering from a set, and then when I'm like my brain's functioning back to normal, I'll like fuck around on my phone or something, because I usually take as long as I need to take before I go for my next set. So it's not about the heart rate and everything, because I can promise you this, my heart rate goes through the roof when I get under the weight. So like it's not about keeping it up. I just need to. I really want to calm down and get my breathing back to normal, get my heart rate back to normal, let my like body recover a little bit from what I just did to it. Yeah. And then I'm like, there's a point where I just go, oh yeah, I'm good. And then I'll go again. But usually by that point, like it's kind of funny. Like if someone comes up and talks to me, meanwhile, I'll be like,
yeah, where'd you come from? I get that. No, I totally get that. Because I'm always in the set. I'm always trying to figure, you know, that mind to muscle connection. And that's for me personally, in between sets, that's all I'm focused on is I'm so either I have anxiety about my next set coming up or I'm just so in the zone. I don't like talking to people when I'm in the gym. I kind of like just to focus. One thing I wanted to talk to you about, what were you going to say?
I totally realized I just brushed over the injury thing, and I was going to get in. I just kind of like dropped off. But
no, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So my theory with injuries and such is I never felt right stretching and then doing lifts.
Sure.
Static stretching and lifting didn't make sense to me. It never did.
There you go. You've heard it from Lance. I say that all the time.
Well, this is something I picked up when I was powerlifting. I found that like when I first got into it and started getting stronger, I found that my lifting wasn't as good and my form was actually off. Okay. Like it would throw me out of whack. Right. So what I do is I just do sets, and I start at the barbell and I work up. And I don't care how heavy I'm going. Like even if I'm doing rack pulls, and rack pulls I can go really heavy. I'll start with like 135, and then 225, and then 315, and then 405, and then 495, like that kind of thing. And I just work my way up and work my way up. And I found that kind of dynamic approach is I accredit it why I've never had a major injury. I've never had a major any kind of skeletal injury. I've never had any of those. I have had some small like muscle tearing and stuff like that, but it's never been like a full tear. It's always been inner muscle, so it's not like at a joint or anything like that. It's never needed surgery. It's never needed anything more than like a week or two off. Yeah. I think it's like I find like that's really what it is. I've always felt really good just doing dynamic stretching. Dynamic movement of the actual movement and then going into it. I agree. So specifically with like squats, I think it's absolutely necessary. Like deadlifts, you can start a bit heavier if you're going heavier. That's my approach anyway. Like I don't do the barbell because it doesn't sit right. Sure. Squats are kind of hard because there's I use the weight to balance me, so my form's a little bit off when it's a naked bar, but when it's got about 225 on it, that's where I'm really good because I weigh 235 pounds, so it's like it balances me out really, really well. So that's when everything starts dialing in, is when the weight gets to about 4 plates, and then then it's like, okay, I'm going over body weight. Let's get the belt. Let's make sure I've got my wrist wraps and let's do all this stuff and get to town. So I use the belt only when it's going over body weight. I don't use it for any other reason. And I use it for tension. I'm not worried about back or anything. It's just to keep everything nice and tight so I don't bleed energy. Most people get that wrong with belts. I know you don't. I'm just saying.
Oh, no, I understand. No, I get what you're saying. No, I totally get what you're saying. You have a strong core. Yeah. So the belt's about using the Valsalva method and the belt. It's all about just making sure you don't bleed energy. So that's why I'll use it on bench, but I only use it once again if I'm going over body weight. If I go over, if I'm going to bench 225 plus, I'm putting the belt on. And people will be like, why are you wearing a belt? It's a full body movement. Why wouldn't I wear a belt? But it's not going to hurt your back. I'm like, it's not for that. I know. There's so many misconceptions out there, and that's why I'm so happy when I hear you talk about static stretching, because that's one of the things that drives me as a trainer insane. When I see people doing a static stretch prior to a deadlift or a squat or a bench press, I'm like, oh my God, you're taking your muscle into a state of relaxation before you're going to hit it really hard. That's asking for trouble. And then you go back and you take it another static stretch in between sets. Rest, go, rest, go. When you're doing that, when you're stretching out that muscle and it's about to get hit really hard, that to me is a recipe for disaster. So I'm glad to hear you back that up, because a lot of people say, no, you should stretch in between sets. Dynamic stretching. Sorry?
See, that was the hockey talking to me, because this way, you don't see the hockey players like stretching before they go out. No. See them skating in a circle. Yeah. You might see the goalie stretching a bit. Yeah. And maybe the guy's stretching out their hamstrings a little bit, or their groin or something. But that's generally if there's tightness. Most of the guys are just skating in a circle, getting their legs warmed up, and then, hey, look, game starts. Exactly. And so it was this funny one where where there was a guy. I think it was in Taiwan, actually, and he's like a proper yoga instructor, and I mean, he's exceptionally good. And he was asking me about, he's like, I never see you stretching. Why is that? He's like, stretching seems to be, because he also did some little bit of weightlifting at the gym that I went to when I first got there, and I was like, stretching just doesn't feel right. It doesn't make sense. Like, I know everybody says you should do it, but there was a point where I'm like, I spend 30, 35 minutes stretching, and then I feel weird when I start my lifting. Yeah. But if I just if I'm like, don't have time and skip the stretching, then I do better on the lifting.
Sure.
So why don't I just do the lifting?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're going to get hurt. Well, I haven't yet. Like,
no. I mean, there definitely is a time. That's they're not saying don't stretch, but we're just saying like before the workout, I don't think that's a great time to do your static stretches. And I think you're saying the same.
Yeah. And I flat out only stretch when I feel tightness. That's it. Yeah. And that'll be after my workout. If I feel tightness like the next day or that night or something, then I'll stretch it out like on the floor of my place. You know, I'm not doing it at the gym. I just don't see the need. Unless I feel like I need to stretch right now, you know, like if I'm doing a squat and I feel something weird and maybe then I would go down and stretch, but I've never had that happen. Just people talk about all these injuries they get. I don't get any of them. And it's not, I think part of it's going to be down to that. And part of it's because I know what I can handle.
Yeah. Like, you know your body.
Know what, before I walk into the gym, I know what I'm doing that day. Yeah. You know, it's always one of those. It's like, how's this warm up feels will dictate whether I do, you know, say I want to hit like a bunch of sets of 5 and I'm not doing super big weight. Like, okay, well, if the warm ups go poorly, like if I feel really bad under the weight, I feel like I'm being crushed, maybe I'll just do 315 for like 3 sets of 5. And if I don't feel like I'm getting crushed, maybe I'll go up to about 345, do sets of 5, maybe 4 sets, something like that. But it's in my head before I've walked through the door. So I already know what my options are. And so it's always dictated by the warm up. I've never, since I started getting better, I've never like wrote down the weight I need to use before I go to the gym, before I've done warm ups ever. You'll see me with my little notebook in the gym going,
yeah, just calculating. Yeah.
Just like, okay, if I do that, then if I do 3 of those, then that'll be kind of like doing 5 of that. Depending on how I feel, let's do that. Yeah, you know, like, and it's all just based on how you feel as you're going.
Sure. And it's interesting too, because as I mentioned earlier, you and I have different training styles, but our mindset is very similar. Like I always enter the gym knowing exactly what I'm going to train. Sometimes the exercises have to change depending on how busy the gym is, but I know what muscle group I'm going to train. And I'm mentally preparing myself. And I say the same thing to our clients. I mean, you better know what you're training with us when you walk in that gym. It's not like, oh, what do you feel like training today? No. This is not Mickey Mouse workouts. These are real workouts. And you could get hurt if you're not mentally preparing yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
I wanted to switch over to another topic, actually, and it has what to do with you. When I first met you, you were a heavy set guy. You were a big guy, but you were a heavy guy. And all of a sudden, in like a couple of months, I started to see you starting to lose weight, quite a bit of weight. Yet you were still doing your powerlifting movements. And now I know how you lost the weight, but can you explain to people how you actually were able to, A, maintain your strength and still do that type of training while losing the weight you lost?
Well, it's funny because it was a lot of it was based on one thing that you talked about. Because you were just getting ready for a show, and you were talking about your prep in and prep out. And I remember I asked you like a real simple question. I was like you said ramp up, like you said, I think it was some term, I forget exactly what it was, but you said it, and I asked you exactly what you meant by it. And you were like, well, like as I get closer to the show, like I'll diet down, and then there's a point where my diet hits like here, and then I start ramping my activity up to cut the fat. Yeah. And I was just looking at you and I just go, huh. Like I'd never thought of that before.
Yeah.
No, like I've never gone to the gym going, I'm gonna lose weight.
Right.
But I remember what you said, and it's just one of those ones where like in my head, like I've always kind of called my approach just common sense approach. Like simple, common sense, you know, keep it simple is generally it. And so whenever you overthink it, it's always like silly. But I was listening to that, you say that, and then it was like a week later, I just go, okay, I think I'm done being fat. And it was really funny because it genuinely just kind of, there was a couple of little factors that made me go, maybe I should lose some weight. One of them, I swear to God, a friend of mine showed me my 600-pound life, and I was like, I was only like 290 or something, but I was like,
oh, I've seen those shows, yeah.
Oh man. And I just remember the doctor, you know, this funny accent saying how like that basically makes all problems worse, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not getting any younger, am I? Like, no. I've been carrying around an extra person for you know, like for like most of my life. Yeah, and when I got into powerlifting, I let myself get a little bit fatter again because I remember I was doing like a meet, and I think 305 was the weight limit for the thing. So I remember before doing that meet, I was at like 291 or something like that, and I gained like 5 or 6 pounds, and then all of a sudden I was killing it in the gym, and so I was like, great idea, I'm gonna eat into every time I do a meet, and so I
Sure.
like
Yeah.
had slowly been getting higher and higher, and so like I think I was at 303 or something at my highest, and I was just
Oh
like,
wow.
yeah, that was like right about where I moved back to Vancouver,
Yeah.
and it actually hurt my lifts.
Okay.
There was a point where I got too fat, and
Oh, okay.
it screwed up my lifts. And so I
Right.
started losing a little bit of a. It wasn't that I was losing strength or muscle or anything like that. I just couldn't breathe.
Okay.
You know, like I'm using oxygen way too fast.
Sure.
So like the bigger you are, the more oxygen you use.
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, as a big guy, like that's the reason why I mostly stick to lower reps on heavier stuff. Is like I just simply run out of air.
Yeah.
Like I don't care how fit I am, I run out of air.
Well,
My body is way too big, uses way
yeah.
too much oxygen.
And the weight you're
So
lifting.
yeah. But I in terms of like oxygen management, you're gonna find a littler body's gonna handle oxygen better
Yeah.
because
Much
there's,
more efficiently.
like my blood has to pump like an extra what, mile, like
Your body has to work a lot harder when you weigh a lot more.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
But
so it was something that I kind of noticed. And so like, here's the interesting thing. So I lost a little bit of weight just basically not, walking a bit more and like eating a little bit better, nothing big. And
right.
then I had that discussion with you, and I just was like, what if I do this?
Yeah.
And I said it to a friend of mine who lives in Vancouver. I said to him, and I go, you know what? I think I'm done being fat. And he goes, what?
Yeah.
And I was he's like, yeah, but you're like, big muscly guy. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm still fat. And I think I'm done being fat. And he just kind of like, whatever. And then like 3 or 4 months later, he was like, how much weight have you lost? And I was like, oh, 80 pounds.
Yeah. You lost a lot of weight.
Yeah. Like I got down to about 212, I think. So I went from 292 to 212 in, God, 3 months, 2.5 months, something like that.
But now, sorry, let me just interrupt you for a second. When you lost that weight, did you notice a decrease in strength at all on any of your lifts?
I'll tell you what, I
Yeah.
hit PRs.
Really?
At about my best ever bench press, I hit it at 273 pounds there. My best ever overhead press, I overhead press 300 pounds at 285.
Wow.
So that was my best ever, the best I've ever gotten close to.
Yeah.
It was a push press, so there was some leg use there, but I remember crushing that going, oh man, I should have done this a long time ago.
Sure. Yeah. So you
I did.
Yeah.
I did lose some top end weight. So what I've noticed was that I still had all of the strength, but now I was losing the fat. So I had all the power still, but I was just lighter. And I was using oxygen a lot better, so I could do a lot more.
Right.
So I understand why guys will like eat into a contest and then drop out of it and stuff like that, and or get on the downturn before they get into a contest or something for powerlifting. And I was genuinely surprised. I think I pulled at that gym there. I think I did a 545 deadlift at 265, 268, something like that. Which once again is crazy.
Sure.
That's it's the upper echelon of what I can do when I was 280. So losing 30 pounds and still being able to hit the weight was pretty incredible to me. There was a tapering off of strength on the long term though. So as when my body realized that I'm no longer this mass, this massive chunk of meat, it basically, it tapered off a little bit. So I lost probably 30 or 40 pounds off the high end of what I can do. Right. But I also, dropped, I keep myself a little bit heavier now, to 35-ish, give or take.
Yeah.
That's
normal for a guy your height though, at 6'5", 235. That's not crazy. That's not like super heavy. Yeah.
I can wear a large t-shirt or whatever. It fits me like a wetsuit, but it's one of those. Like,
but Lance, I want to get into, so when you were losing that weight though, what would you attribute more of that weight loss to? Was it diet? Was it cardio? Or was it the combination of two? I mean, give me, what were you doing for cardio to lose that weight?
okay, so what I tried to do was I tried to mimic what I was seeing you do with your contest prep,
Okay.
but on a smaller scale.
Right.
So I looked at, because I'm boring as hell. I eat the same stuff all the time. Like, I'm pretty happy to do that.
Yeah.
And so there's just stuff that I didn't need to eat.
Right.
And so, but here's the thing. I wanted to not lie to myself. I think the biggest thing people get wrong is they lie to themselves about what they consume and what they regularly consume. So what I did for the first month is I did a food diary. So, and but what I mean by that, I didn't like mark down the calories or anything like that. I wasn't super strict. I just go, what did I eat today? Anything with a calorie went in the book. And so for 1 week to start, I didn't change anything. I didn't alter what I would order. I had all my favorite stuff. I did, did it the same way. Wrote everything down. I didn't change my training either that first week at all. So what I do the second week, I took one thing that was completely unnecessary that I would like snack on, and I removed it. I'm allowed to have that. And I added 1 day of walking 20 minutes in the morning for cardio.
Yeah. Just 1 day a week?
1 day a week.
1 day a week.
And then, and so the second week, I took one more thing out.
Yeah.
And then I added another day of walking for 20 minutes when I first wake up. So I'd make a cup of coffee, take my book, go down to the gym in my building, walk for 20 minutes on the treadmill, drink my coffee, read my book, go back upstairs, do my week as normal. Right. And so I just kept doing that. And I just kept taking one thing that doesn't need to be there. If it's something like an actual food that, like a lunch, I just replace it with something a little bit better that I still like.
Right.
And then I added the 20 minutes. And so it was one of those, like I was working down my food intake, but I was working up my average movement for the week. And I was looking at it as a week. I was going, it's not a day-to-day thing. It's your body doesn't respond that fast. So let's call it, I want to, do this per week, and I want to do this per week. And I made one simple change on diet and one extra day walking in the morning for 20 minutes. That's it. On an empty stomach. That's it. And then when I got down to, around 265, my body ran. It just started running. I was dropping like 6-7 pounds a week at this point. And I was trying to like get the cork back in. Yeah. Because originally I only planned to go down to about 260 because I was really comfortable at 260. Most of my powerlifting was done around 260, 265. So I was like, that was my goal weight. Like I was still a little bit chubby though. So I remember I dropped from 270, just the low 270s, 271, 272 to about 263 or something. I was like my biggest drop, 9 pounds. And I kind of panicked a little bit.
Right.
And it was one of those, I'm like, don't worry, just, it's just speeding up, your metabolism is speeding up. That's all it really is. And it pretty much was, but I couldn't get the shit back in the goose, essentially. Like I kept losing, and I didn't want to make any changes. I just wanted to slow it down because I knew I was like, I can't drop 9 pounds a week. That's going to be really bad.
Right.
And then, so I slowed it down. I got it to arrest itself down to about 4 pounds a week again. And then that took about 3-4 weeks. And by that point, I was like, I might as well go to 220. Yeah. And then I was like at 220, and I'm like, there's still a little bit of chub here. I might as well go to 215. And then like I dropped down 215, and then I just kept it down. I think I dipped into below 212, but 212 is the one I remember getting on the scale and going, oh, wow, that's legitimately 80 pounds. Right. Like that, I've legitimately lost 80 pounds. And it was funny. So I just tried to keep at about 215, and I did that for a month or two. And then I realized that I was really thin at 215. You were. And yeah.
I think I said that to you.
Yeah. Like it was crazy though. Like over the 2 months, because right after that I moved to Phoenix for a stint. And when I was in Phoenix, I kind of tried to keep it up, but I was walking a little bit less. So I let myself get up to about 222, 225. Okay. And it was the first time that I ever had like a six pack in my life. And I legitimately thought that wasn't even possible. Right. I was so angry at just the general fitness industry in general.
Lots of likes. Yeah.
I spent 10 years lying to myself because they told me it couldn't be done.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then everybody who talks about it, they're like, oh, well, you know, you get surgery and you can do it that way. And I was like, I don't want fucking surgery. I just want to do it. Like, what?
No.
Yeah. And, you know.
And you know, one of the reasons why I wanted people to hear your story is because I remember when you were having that weight loss transition and you were losing all that weight and your physique like transformed. I even would say to Robin, I'm like, Lance is losing weight on the day. Like I would see you on a Monday and then like I'd see you on a Wednesday, I'm like, he was like 5 pounds. And you weren't doing I know you weren't doing any fat burners. You weren't doing like excessive cardio. You weren't like starving yourself. You did it in a gradual manner, but you were losing weight quite quickly. And I think what happened was your base metabolic rate just went up and your metabolism essentially turned into like a carburetor, it was eating everything up. You combine that with muscle, the powerlifting that you're doing, and yeah, it's rare, but it does happen. People are going to lose weight fast. So you didn't do anything extreme, and that's why you're a perfect example. And one of the things too is that you've managed, like, yeah, you're 235 now, but it's a good, healthy 235. You're not sitting there overweight, sweating, talking to me. It's a good weight. You didn't rebound. Have you found like it difficult to stay on track with your diet now, staying at a lighter weight? No.
It's really funny. I've told this to a couple of people, but once you're at the weight you like, it's really hard to not be that weight.
Yeah.
Like if you're willing to exercise, it's really hard not to stay the weight that you want to stay. I look at things like I don't even keep track anymore. I know how I like to eat. I know it works. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't make any sacrifices. If I want a big box of cookies, I'll go eat a big box of cookies.
Sure.
I have no shame in my game. You know what I do the next day? I don't have toast with my breakfast. Maybe I'll go for a little walk on top of what I would normally do. Just something to try to balance it out a little bit. And it's one of those ones where I don't think the body's ultra responsive. Yeah. So you've got a couple of weeks to balance it all out. I mean, obviously I do an immediate response just because it's more like my mental guilt for eating said box of cookies. You know, like,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, you're like, oh, I should have done that, damn. But I'm not going to stop myself from doing anything I want to do. Like, I'll go to like, a nice restaurant, I'll indulge. I got no problem with that.
Right.
Like, I've even worked into my diet in terms of my calories over the week. It doesn't balance out unless I have a couple of cocktails. It just doesn't, because I've made that part of my diet. That's like, if I don't get a couple of cocktails in the week, I lose weight.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I got sick. I had the flu maybe, I don't know, 5-6 months ago or something like that. And my stomach was really off. I didn't have a drink for like 10 or 12 days.
Yeah.
But I could still eat. I was still eating pretty much the same. I lost 6 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
It's incredible, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it just was like the calories that weren't coming in. And because I was ill, I wasn't getting hungry. Yeah. Like normally if I don't have drinks or something, I'll need a snack. It just has to happen. Like or I'll wake up absolutely ravenous, just ravenous. So it's just part of my thing.
And I think one of the main reasons you were able to lose weight so quickly was because you kept the weightlifting in. And I think that's a big mistake people make. I say this over and over again. I see all these people doing hours of cardio. And yeah, cardio is important, but if you could choose between a weightlifting workout or a cardio session, in my opinion, take the weightlifting workout all day, every day. If you can only choose one, because you're going to burn so many calories for the rest of that day after that workout, then as opposed to going 1 hour on the treadmill, where you're only burning those calories on the treadmill. And that's what I liked about your approach. You didn't do crazy amounts of cardio.
Yeah, I just knew it wasn't sustainable. Number one. Number two, people have the wrong idea about cardio.
Yeah,
like, it's not training. It's weight maintenance. That's it.
Exactly.
Unless you're trying to run a marathon, you're not training when you're doing cardio.
No.
Like, no matter what you tell yourself, it's not training. It is literally just weight management. You're there to burn a few calories, and even then, they don't do it right. They need to go. You need to go and do your cardio where you've done stuff. Like if you just had breakfast, don't do cardio.
Yeah.
Don't do cardio. Go do something. Go grocery shopping. Go do some work. Go sit on your ass and watch TV. Whatever.
Yeah.
3 or 4 hours later, go do some cardio.
Yeah.
That's the time.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the
100%.
time. You gotta get your body sugar, you know, use some of those sugar stores, and then you go do some light cardio, because that's very sustainable.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was my big move. That was probably the biggest part of the cardio for me, is that it always exists in a negative state. Like, it's never, when I'm full and satiated, never happening that way. I don't want it to happen there. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't do anything at that point. You know, it's like you're already spending half your energy breaking the food down.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like going and walking, it doesn't do anything. You're flush with sugar, this fresh sugar. And this is some of the sugar your body's just going to get rid of anyway.
Exactly.
So
yeah. No, I agree.
Why burn it then?
I agree. Before I let you go, I want to, you know, I didn't actually, I tried to touch on this base earlier in the interview, but we didn't. I want you to tell people exactly, well, first off, you're back in my hometown of Montreal right now. And tell everyone what you do for a living, because you actually have a quite interesting job.
I'm part of like a real estate team, I guess, where there's a group of guys. We do some investing in properties, and we'll do let's say we'll buy like a small apartment building, and then we'll renovate it and rent it up, and hopefully keep it. The idea is to keep it, but generally there's an offer coming down the line, and if it's at a number that we've set before you ever started, sort of like with going to the gym, right? Like, you know what you want to do before you get there. Somebody offers you that number or above it, take it. It's a simple math. You don't have to try to sell it. It just, somebody will probably want to buy it.
Right.
So that's basically what we do. So I've been a part of that. I mean, it's not, I don't really have a role, but you know, I did some project management and stuff when I did some projects on my own and things. But for the most part, it's pretty light on the work.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, is that, you know, it's a great job because you kind of make your own schedule too, in a way, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, right now with COVID-19, has that affected your business at all, for you personally?
For me personally, no. Not business wise. Personally, the biggest one is that it keeps me out of the gym, which is driving me crazy.
Yeah, I bet.
I find that I'm not sleeping as well. I get headaches. It's really like I'm having gym withdrawals. It's about the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough. Business wise, no, everything's pretty much business as usual. There's still construction going on.
Yeah.
But now we can't obviously be touring people through properties. So if we're trying to rent up an apartment, we don't do that. So what I've been doing is editing videos for our website so we can try to rent some units that way. And it seems like it's going pretty well so far. I think a lot of business is going to change due to this going forward.
Yeah.
I think a lot of businesses are realizing that it might be more of a liability to have a big footprint and have a lot of people coming into the office every day rather than working from home.
Right.
I think this is more of a learning moment for industry.
Okay.
I mean, all industry, because businesses are still working on this ridiculous idea that you're trading money for time.
Right.
You're trading money for work. Yeah. And if it takes you 5 hours, great. If it takes you 2 hours, great. If it takes you 16 hours to do the same work, great. It doesn't matter.
No.
The being there from 9 to 5 is complete and utter wank. It's the dumbest thing. And it's something that I realized when I was in university. I was like, you know, like I'm sitting in this class and I'm going, well, this is all in the book that I read last night. Why am I wasting an hour sitting here? It's gorgeous outside. Why don't I go do something? You know, like I'm in Europe. It's beautiful. Why don't I go to like Poland? You know, like something like that.
That's right.
So I started looking at things a little bit differently, and I'm like, if it only takes me this long to do it, why would I spend more time?
Yeah, you have a different mindset.
And then, you talk to people who go to an office every day, and you're like, how much real work do you do a day? 2-3 hours? Yeah, about that. And then I get interrupted by some meeting. It's like, great. And do you ever get going again? Not really, because at that point there's like an hour until I leave, and I'm like, if I get something going, then there's a lot that needs to be done. So I'll just like faff about for about an hour and then leave. Okay, so you've done 2 or 3 hours of work. You've sat there for 8 hours. Like, good Lord, like the company would be so much more efficient if they just go, this is what you need to do this week. If you need resources that are only in the office, come into the office for the time you need them.
Yeah, you're right. It's funny because I've had a few clients who are working from home say, man, I'm so much more productive working from home these days. But then it's,
Yeah.
but I miss going into work and seeing my coworkers and my colleagues and say, well, you miss the social components, but go have a social life. And maybe, if you can focus more at home, maybe you should be doing your job at home, get more done.
Well, this is the problem with adults, right? Like, but when everybody's working all the time, you're spending your time, you've got your work friends, and then some of your friends that you don't work with, maybe you don't see as often, or, you'll cancel plans. Everybody loves doing that. They're like, they get home, they're in like their pajamas, they're on the sofa, and you're like, oh, so you got to go meet so-and-so at 7. Oh,
yeah.
God, I hope he calls and cancels.
No, it's true. You're right.
And so now I think, I genuinely think if more people are working from home and they're still earning the same wages and they're not getting screwed around by the company, I think that they're going to have more productive social lives. Number one, they'll be overall happier. And this is the one angle where a lot of people probably haven't thought about is there's a good chance that local businesses will thrive with more people spending less time at the office. So
possibly,
yeah, so there's a lot more chance that you're going to be going out for lunches, maybe meet a brunch with a friend on like a weekday, like these things that normally aren't possible because you're in the office are now going to be possible because you make your own time. So I think I think business wise, I think there's some real learning to be happening right now. I think a lot of businesses that, if they're smart, are going to offer flexible attendance, essentially. Like, you're totally welcome to come work here whenever you need to. We've got resources available. You can book a computer or whatever, and then we'll do it that way. You log into your account, get your work done or whatever. And you can also work from home. So if you're just not feeling like coming in, or you don't think you need anything from the office, you don't need any input from anybody else, feel free to stay at home.
Sure.
Don't take that metro ride into town. And I think businesses that are offering that are going to find themselves getting better candidates as well in terms of hiring. So there's a lot of genuine learning that businesses can be doing right now from the situation that's going on. And it's only if they're smart enough to get it. Like, there's going to be companies that are just going to be like, we are draconian. We want you here in a suit every morning. If you're not here before 9, you're late. Like that kind of thing. And those businesses are going to find themselves losing good quality workers. They're going to go to more flexible offices.
Yeah. I think it's a good time as a small business owner. I think to myself, I'm like, it's a perfect time to reinvent yourself. And, rather than try to work against what's going on, try to work with it and say, okay, well, there's a lot of negatives, but there's actually some positives to take out of this too. And like you said, this could be there's a lot of opportunities to be made right now. Maybe not right now, but post COVID-19, there are going to be opportunities for, especially for smaller local businesses to really thrive in this new society, right?
Yeah, I think that those businesses that are, especially now, because there's going to be a lot of people looking for work.
Yeah.
So some of these businesses that had a retraction in response to this, I think they're going to be, if they can reinvent themselves a little bit and be more flexible and understand that something like this might happen again, and that, and have more assurances that, number one, the work they need done can be done from home, and number two, basically that they're going to be able to assure these people that we need this work regardless of whether there's going to be another pandemic or something like that, because so it adds some security against this happening in the future, number one, and number two, it goes both ways. So it's security for the worker, it's security for the business. Like, we're still going to need this work, but we can still pay you because we're going to get this and still be putting out our product or whatever, because now this is just how we can do business.
Right.
This is how we're structured now. To be able to do this. And something like that. Definitely there's opportunities there.
I agree. Before I let you go, your 3 favorite lifts and the maximum that you've lifted on each.
Oh boy. My favorite is probably going to be the deadlift. And the reason is because there's nothing makes me feel more high. I think my biggest was 565.
Jesus.
And that was, I was high for like 3 days after hitting it. It's like the first time I ever hit 500 pounds was, I didn't think I'd feel that good again. because I was just like, that was like my longest long-term goal. And it was a mental thing. Like at 485, I just kept failing. Like maybe 480, I'd hit it.
Yeah.
I remember I hit 475 3 times. And then the next training session, I went 490 and I missed. And I'm like, what? Like, how did I hit 475 3 times and I can't hit 490? It's like 15 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like a very small increment at that weight.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when I hit the 565, it was pretty intense. Yeah, that was pretty nuts. And then obviously squats were like my bread and butter. Best on squat was 485, and that was a grunter. I don't know if I went depth on that. That was just a gym lift. But it was one of those ones where like you feel the weight on you, and like that was one of those ones where sometimes when with really heavy squats and stuff, like the hearing in one of my ears clicks off.
I get that too. I get that. I don't even go as heavy as you, and I get that.
Yeah, that one was a tough one. Like I really had to grind it. Like it wasn't smooth at all. And I just refused to drop it. Like it was one of those where like I got past the worst part. Like I bounced out of the hole, and I had some momentum. And then right before I get to the part where it becomes really easy, like in that like the 2/4 part of the lift on the way back up, I just got stuck. And I'm like, and I'm just sitting there and just like, I'm not dropping you. I've done this. This is done. I'm finishing this. I'm finishing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, I remember like my head felt like it was going to pop.
Right.
And then I managed to fight it, and I got it up, and then I racked it, and then I just sat on the floor, and I couldn't hear anything. And I was just like,
crazy.
And that was that one did not feel good. I did not feel high after that one. Right. That did not feel good whatsoever. My favorite squat, first time I did 445, I did 3 times. So it was my first triple at 445, and that one I felt great. I felt really strong that day, so I smashed it. The third one was a little bit sticky, but that was about it. But that one I felt really good. That was like the best squat that I felt good afterwards.
Third lift.
All the other ones.
What's your third?
Third lift. Oh, this is tough because
you only get 3.
Yeah, on pure beast, it's got to be rack pulls.
Okay.
And the reason is just because it's just so heavy, so ridiculous, and you're moving it, and even if you're only moving it like half a deadlift, and it's like the easiest part of that half deadlift. Yeah. But I did 775. Yeah, and I did it one time.
Yeah.
And I genuinely like, it was one of those ones where that day, the way the training was, I was going really heavy on rack pulls because I didn't really have anything else that I was doing that day that was going to be heavy. I just had some light overhead press and some like light bench and stuff like that, the way it was structured that week. And so I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And so because I normally would do like sets of 8 and then sets of 5 and then sets of 3 and then stop. But like, it was just one of those ones like I was talking about before where the weight felt so good. The warm-ups felt like the 8s felt like nothing. Yeah. Like I had all the oxygen, everything was good. Went for 5, and I did 5 at like, God, I was at 625 at this point. And so I did 625, 5. I felt really good. And then I jumped up to 700 because I've never done 700 before. And I was for 3, and I managed all 3, and I was like, I'm going to do a single. And so I just put it on, and then I was like, okay, I moved 75 pounds last increment. I'm going to move 75 pounds this increment. And then I did it, and I got it. And that I didn't think I was actually going to get it. And then I was worried, what if I do get it to the top and then like my back goes, no, So it was one of those, I was a little bit scared, and I dragged it up the legs, and I'm standing there, and my arms were like, my shoulders felt like they're going to rip out of my arm sockets. Like I was using straps, so I was strapped and chopped, and I was just like, oh my God, that was intense. But that was one of those ones where that lift alone made me feel like such a beast. Yeah. Like I wanted to just be like, Kong, right afterwards, like, because it's just you're just moving the big weights.
Well, if you want to check out Lance's lifts, you can go to his Instagram. Lance, what's your Instagram?
Soulless Strength.
Soulless Strength. Yeah, I'm going to put that in the link to the description of this video so you can follow him. I love your videos. I know you haven't been able to put up any videos in the last few weeks due to COVID-19, but once COVID-19 has passed, I'm sure you'll be back in the gym putting up some of those videos. And these videos are good. Raz is not taking selfies in the gym. He's putting some pretty heavy weights up there. So they're quite motivating to watch. So I definitely recommend checking out his Instagram. Lance, I want to thank you so much for spending the time with me tonight. I know you're 3 hours ahead of me, so it's almost your bedtime, I imagine, right? But,
well, I tend to stay up pretty late. So.
Yeah, you got nowhere else to go tomorrow. So. But yeah, thank you so much. Robin says hi. And
yeah,
I will tell her you say hi. And yeah, I'll talk to you again. Any plans to come back to Vancouver anytime soon after COVID?
It's something I was actually thinking about a couple of days ago, actually right before you reached out. I was like, I haven't been there in a while. I should go and check out some of my buddies there. I haven't been back since I moved here, actually. Like since then, I did make a quick trip into Victoria, but I've been mostly going to the States and stuff, to Phoenix and things. So I would like to, when things restrict, restrictions get lifted, so to speak. And I'll let you know if I do.
Yeah, we'll hit up a workout together. I'll try some powerlifting. I'm open to it. Yeah, thanks so much, Lance. I appreciate you stopping and talking with me today. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
All right, have a great night, Lance.
You too, man. Take care.
Okay, have a good one.